I think that one of the, if not the biggest issue with this generation, I mean,
Mhm.
the one after mine, but it's probably mine also, is there's such a radical move away from the self, especially when you have social media. Um, we're bombarded with the ability to gain validation from an infinite amount of sources. So we look for that naturally. Versus if we lived 70 years ago, the main areas of validation are our nuclear family, and we would hope ourselves. And I believe that the healthiest form of validation is one that comes from yourself, not necessarily from your family. Your family should also validate, which is like the health of the family, but your personal health is the validation from yourself. Which is why if you walk down the street and someone calls you an idiot, it really shouldn't affect you, because who cares that someone called you an idiot? We live in a day and age where what a person individually thinks almost doesn't matter, because people aren't used to internal validation, which means they're broken. We're used to validation of social media. How many likes did I get? How many views did I get? Who's emailing me? Am I popular in school? Am I popular in work? Like more than ever, which is really dangerous. Now, you're a comedian, which is hyper validation. Like you walk into a room and your job and your persona is based off of, are people going to laugh at my joke? And the validation doesn't come in, let me check in 5 minutes if someone liked my comment. Your validation comes in, you drop a joke and there's either a response that's positive or there's not a response that's positive, right? So how does that hyper validation not make life more difficult and you're not being able to focus on your internal self validation? And how do you combat that? Because you've either fallen into the pit, which I doubt, Ellie. You seem like a healthy man. Okay, but if you've fallen into the pit, ouch, that sucks. And if you haven't fallen into the pit, then that means that there's something that you have that I think everyone could learn from, because you're the most amount of danger for falling into the pit of hypervalidation from being outside yourself, and yet you've been able to pull it in. So go ahead.
Well, I think part of this extends to the world not having a the moral compass is fraying in the world in general. So the guidebook who of what to do is very, very arbitrary from, whether it's an administration or a political party. So for myself, I mean, most comedians will tell you, anybody will tell you, like, you're crazy enough to get up on stage in front of strangers and think like you're gonna make them laugh. Like, of course that stems from, hey, I didn't get enough validation as a kid, which I definitely didn't. But
Is that
I'm
really where it
self
stems from? I wouldn't think that necessarily.
probably, I don't know who gets up on stage and says, "Hey, everybody,
You
make."
have a talent. You have a talent. Why can't you
But how do
express your
you?
talent?
But what makes somebody? How about what makes somebody have that talent?
The ability to
Meaning,
manipulate things. The
I understand, but how do
someone
you?
who had
But meaning, it's like seeing someone do like a crazy magic trick or not magic trick, but something like a crazy like skateboarder or whatever. How many times they had to, like? Do you know how many times you had to fall down to realize you were good at that or whatever? Like, there's this comedian Gary Goldman who says every time I see close up magic, like I see, like, I'm such an empath that, like, I saw this guy, you know, pull a card out of an orange, and instead of being wow, I said, "You must have had such a lonely child." It was such a good, like, chiddush, for lack of a better term, um, because no, I'm saying, like, meaning, what makes somebody get up on stage in front of strangers and say, "Hey, I'm gonna," especially when most people are like scared to
again,
speak in public.
why can't it be the power of manipulation, not in a negative way, but the power of manipulation and psychological control?
Then you go into because then you go into sales. You're you go into sales and you go into a career that's a lot more lucrative.
Because it's not, but because not everyone's about making money, right?
I
I'm
mean,
a Rev by trade. I guarantee you right now, okay, I would do far better financially if I was not a Rev, and I have plenty of talents I think that I could add to the business world, at least so my wonderful wife tells me. Okay, but I chose this career because I felt that it was right, and I had power within this career to do good, right? So I think a comedian could do good, and even though he might be a tremendous salesperson, just because he feels like he can add something to the universe without having to make an extra buck, Ellie,